Hi everybody, welcome back. So today in our third video, we're going to talk about the idea of the objective correlative and repetition just generally. So what's the objective correlative? Well, it's something E.M. Forster came up. I think it was E.M. Forster, it was T.S. Eliot, one of those English people. They came up with this idea that you're always going to come back to the same object, and that object will help to us to understand the emotional truths of the characters. Because you come back to sort of like 10 objects, it's hard to know whether the character is growing or the character just reacts differently to different objects, right? And so if you have that one objective correlative, we're coming back to this thing and say, oh, okay, I see how that character is growing because, you know, you had birthday cake at the beginning and the middle and the end, and like at the end he was smashing the cake because he's upset or angry. That's not what we're going to try to do with this. That brings to mind MacArthur Park. That's a strange objective correlative, the cake that's left out in the rain. But repetition, you know, comedy has the rule of three, so you're going to come back, and it helps the listener, the viewer, the reader, whatever it is that you're doing, whatever medium, to understand, to have a touchstone. It's like, oh, okay, I get it, and now I understand the humor in a more complex way, or I understand the sadness, or whatever it is that you're doing. And so this is how what we're going to do today is we're going to work on repetition, and we're going to work on repetition and maybe our bodies as well. You know, it's very difficult to describe yourself or anyone else and have that idea be transformed with the reader if you're talking about the neck up, because the subtlety of the face is very difficult to capture, right? So, you know, if we're talking and I go like that, it's much different than this, but it's just raising eyebrows, right? And so people will put, well, his eyebrows went up or his eyes widened. It's like, okay, but in what subtle way? It's very difficult. From the neck down, it becomes, we are far less subtle, and we're able to give us that sort of emotional transfer, or emotional state. So if I am walking with a child and holding that child's hand, that's great. I mean, that's an emotional thing that we all feel, right? If I tell you that one time I had my toenail ripped off my foot, you probably just had kind of visceral reactions. You had the emotional experience of the physical event, right? And so why is that? Well, because we can empathize, and the more you're underneath here, the better. So then, if we're going to write? Let's say we're going to write about our relationship with a tree. The thing I can do is I can say, you know, tree, you make me happy. That doesn't do very much for us. That adjective cuts a lot of the thing, because that adjective is dependent on my vocal tone. It's dependent on our shared relationship, right? And also my body language. Like, boy, that tree makes me happy. You can probably feel that, right? If it's a tree makes me happy, you can probably feel that too. Those two different emotions, but we don't know what there's going to be, how those are coming through the poem or the story. So how can we do this? Well, it used to be, I used to work in Sequoia and Kings Canyon helping people to write, and those are the biggest trees in the world. They are by volume, and not if you count certain birch trees. Okay, but let's just stipulate that they're really big trees. They're huge, right? Bigger than those ones in the Return of the Jedi, which are redwoods, not sequoias. And so, okay, so people would walk up to the tree, and it's kind of amazing. It's almost impossible to see a sequoia tree all at once, the entire thing all at once. You have to look in segments. And what people would do, the physical reality of joy and wonder was in the chest, because people would do that. Right, and their chest, and I guess the back too, right? Their back would crane back as they looked up, and it forces your mouth to go. Right, we all know that. You don't have to describe jaw dropping. In fact, jaw dropping becomes a cliche. I wouldn't use it. Actually, the only way you can really see a full sequoia is by standing on the other side of a meadow, and then you can see it from a distance. And that is its own physical reality, and still involves that. But just imagine what we can do as we're describing. Think of a story if we're going to describe our relationship to the tree. So first you go up and you touch the tree. And the interesting thing about sequoia trees is the bark is it's rough but not hard. It's very soft, and you can like dent it a little bit with your fingers. It's spongy. So how it avoids fire. Or you could sit back and rest. You could really lounge and lie back in its root system. But what's interesting, if at about lunchtime you go to a meadow and see sequoia trees, all you have to do is walk around to the back of the tree, and because bears are tired of tourists, a lot of bears take naps in the midday behind the giant sequoia trees next to the meadows, right? And that's another thing we can do, right? This, again, it's a relationship. So what I'm going to do is have that tree at least 3 times and have my body's reaction to that tree at least 3 times. Going up, touching it, looking at it, walking around it and seeing that bear, right? By the way, the bears aren't scary there. They're California black bears. They're prey, not predators. So that's why, I'm saying this for the people who have never experienced a California black bear, you don't feel fear when you see them. You feel a profound sense of connectedness with the earth. It's extraordinary. Everyone, when they say it, goes, right? It's amazing, right? You don't do that in a zoo, which is yet another reason to hate zoos. Okay, so what I'm going to give you a prompt for today, and the prompt is, I want you describing 3 moments with a tree, right? As you're going in, what is your body relationship with it? Now that can be just in one very short poem, right? It could be, you could title the poem 3 Ways of Seeing a Tree, or you could put it into short fiction. And so the character, maybe something's gone up the tree, and I have to go up the tree, and what is my relationship with that tree? It'd be interesting to climb a tree now. I was a tree climber as a child. I loved climbing trees, and now I probably would still enjoy it, but it'd be much more slow going. Although I'm closer to the top now than I was as a kid, right? But I've only got another few feet to go because I'm tall. Have your character interact with that tree. Do something with that tree. It doesn't have to be a complete story. Let it be a piece of fiction without plot, which we'll be talking about in a couple of videos. Okay, or maybe what else could be in the tree? The tree could have. I had an orange tree growing up in my backyard, and we go back and we pick the oranges. And it was terrible fruit, by the way. It was really, really sour, but it was so extraordinary to be able to pick your own fruit and see things growing and doing this stuff. And the fact that this was tree, this had just grown before me slowly, obviously, and I could eat it was just incredible. Okay, so that's your assignment for Wonder for today. Write that and then send it to me or send it to the Medium thing, and I will see you tomorrow.